didn't think it would ever actually happen. I had those emotions chained to the bottom of my soul, buried under layers of pride and silences that tasted like poison. When I received that phone call from my mother, her voice had something trembling, almost pleading. He told me that my father wanted to see me, and I was speechless. It had been so long since I'd set foot in my hometown, and even longer since I'd looked my father in the eye. An anger had settled inside me that I had never really faced. Yet, when I told Marco, my husband, he looked at me sweetly and only said, "Maybe it's an opportunity to settle accounts with the past. I didn't want to disappoint him. Maybe I, too, was hoping that something could change." So I packed my suitcase and left. Sign up if you want to find out how dangerous desire can become. As soon as I arrived, the familiar landscape brought a lump to my throat. The air had the pungent smell of wet earth and memories. The gate to the house still creaked like it did then, when I tried to go back in silently without being heard. Everything looked the same, but I was different. And then I saw it. Tomas, my stepbrother. I was prepared for anything but him. It had been years since the last time. We hadn't spoken to each other since, after a furious argument with our father. He slammed the door and disappeared. But time had not broken him. On the contrary, the rebellious, angry boy I remembered had become a man, a dangerously charming man. His gaze pierced me like a knife. I was surprised by the power he still had over me. His voice, his body, that smile halfway between challenge and provocation, everything about him was magnetic and destabilizing. I tried to avoid it in the following days. It was the only sensible thing to do. But living under the same roof made everything more complicated. I met him everywhere, in the kitchen in the morning, with unkempt hair and a low tone of voice while he prepared coffee with an almost studied slowness. I would find him in the evening, sitting on the porch, smoking with his gaze lost in space while the aroma of the cigarette mixed with the scent of the pines. And then there were those looks, those long moments of silence where no one spoke, but everything was said. Every time our eyes met, I felt a chill go up my spine, and it wasn't cold. It was a carnal, physical, dangerous tension, something that made me feel alive and guilty at the same time. One morning, during a walk in the woods, we found ourselves alone. I tried to downplay it, to joke, but inside I was as nervous as a leaf. He didn't look amused. He touched my wrist. Minimal contact, but it was enough to make me lose my balance. Her skin was warm, firm, and that touch had something intimate, as if he wanted to tell me, "I know what you are trying to hide." It started to creep into my mind. I dreamed about it at night. I looked for him, even if I didn't even admit it to myself, and every time I passed it, my body reacted as if it had a life of its own. The thoughts became dirty, irrational. I found myself imagining his hands, his lips, his hoarse voice whispering my name. One evening during dinner, Marco and Tommaso began talking animatedly about football. I was there in the middle, sitting between the past and the present, with my heart pounding and my hands sweaty. I wanted to escape, to breathe. So I got up to get a glass of water. But he followed me. He spoke to me in a low voice, so close that his breath touched my neck. My body reacted as if it had caught fire. I could smell her scent, a mixture of leather, wood, and a hint of something indecent. My legs started to shake. I tried to deny it, to convince myself that everything was just in my head, a dangerous game created by boredom, by nostalgia, by the past that came knocking again. But the lies I told him were the same ones I told myself. Every time I tried to move away, to raise that wall that protected me, he found a way to dismantle it. Ever closer, more and more direct. His eyes surveyed me with an unsettling confidence, as if he could read my every hidden thought, and maybe it really was like that. Then, one evening, while I was alone in my old room, the phone vibrated. On the screen, his name. The message was short, but it was enough to make me tremble. I stared at him for a long time, struggling with myself. I wanted to delete it, ignore it, turn everything off, but the truth was that I had already made up my mind. I went out in silence, barefoot, with my heart beating as hard as a crazy drum. Every step seemed like an announced sin to me. The garage was immersed in darkness, illuminated only by the cold light of the moon. The air was thick, full of something that didn't need words. Even the walls seemed aware of what was about to happen. He was there, motionless, as if he had been waiting for me forever. The look was serious, tense, but the body betrayed its truth. I should have told him that it was over, that he couldn't continue, that this was all wrong. And instead I remained there, silent, a few centimeters from him, while the silence between us became more dangerous than any words. He said it was time to stop, but his eyes said the opposite. His hands, stretched out at his sides, trembled slightly. Our breaths mixed. The distance slowly closed, as if an ancient magnetism was reclaiming what had been denied. And I was already beyond all boundaries. I approached, the slow steps, the shortness of breath. I wanted to feel his skin, his hands, his mouth, and it was my mouth that sought his first. The kiss was an explosion. There was no sweetness, only hunger. My tongue sought his with a ferocity I didn't recognize. His hands slid down my back, gripping me tightly. I felt every muscle in his body against mine, every pulse quickened, every impulse held back too long. When we broke away, guilt overwhelmed me. But it wasn't enough to dampen the excitement. I was still there, shaking, with desire pulsing through every inch of my body. His eyes were locked on mine, full of desire and challenge. He told me he would do it again, and I wanted it too, but I didn't have time to answer. A sudden noise made us jump. Someone was coming. I pulled away from him with my heart in my mouth, ran away and hid behind an old wardrobe. I tried to breathe slowly, hoping no one would find me. Yet inside me, I knew it was only the beginning. Marco suddenly appeared on the doorstep of the garage. I didn't even have time to understand if I had closed the door properly, if something had been heard. My heart started beating so hard it hurt. I remained motionless, petrified. Panic seized my muscles, my veins seemed to constrict, and my throat instantly dried up. The fear of being discovered paralyzed me. Tommaso, however, was glacial, a master of control. He turned slowly, with his usual confident air, as if he were the master of the world. He said I wasn't there, that I was gone. No hesitation, no crack in his voice. Marco looked at him for a few seconds, as if he was looking for something in his face. Then he turned and left without saying a word. Only then did I realize I was holding my breath, and when the air returned to my lungs, it was accompanied by a wave of shame. Danger was everywhere, and yet part of me found it exciting. Tommaso even seemed amused. For him, risk was part of the pleasure, but I couldn't smile anymore. I had cheated on my husband, and not with just anyone, but with my stepbrother. In the days that followed, I began avoiding him with every possible excuse. I ran away as soon as I saw him. I always found a way to keep him at a distance. I feared that another look, another touch, would drag me even deeper. But physical distance wasn't enough. Inside me, desire burned. At night, in bed next to Marco, I woke up for no reason. Sometimes sweaty, sometimes agitated, sometimes simply with his name on his lips. The memory of that kiss with Tommaso was like an invisible burn. I touched my lips and still felt his imprint. Alive, dirty, irritable. If something in you has moved listening to this story, then stay. Press sign up and let yourself be tempted again. One story at a time. I was torn. Marco represented the home, the family, the stable and peaceful life that I had always wanted. But Tommaso was passion, boldness, fire. When he touched me, I wasn't me anymore. I was an unknown version of myself, a version I couldn't hate. One evening, while I was watering the plants in the garden, I saw him approaching. His steps were determined, his gaze focused straight on me. He wanted to talk. He wanted to know where we were going. But I was afraid. Not just what I had done, but what I could still do. He told me we couldn't go on like this, that we had to choose. But I couldn't. And as I said it, I realized I was lying, even to myself. Tommaso left that evening. He didn't make a scene, he didn't chase me. And that was exactly what hurt me. In the days that followed, it was as if he had dissolved. No more provocations, no more stolen glances, no more excuses to be close to me. But the void he left behind was deafening. Marco continued to treat me gently. He had no idea about anything, and the nicer he was, the more small I felt. His every attention was a blade digging into me. One evening he proposed that we go out to dinner, a romantic little restaurant, away from everything. I accepted. I put on an elegant dress, trying to smile, but inside me the war was continuous. While he spoke, laughed, took my hand, I only thought about Tommaso. When we returned home, Tommaso was in the garden. I don't know if it was a coincidence or a trap of fate. Marco, unaware, invited him to join us for a glass of wine, and I felt the cold run down my back. Tommaso accepted. He approached calmly, but his eyes sought mine, and they were full of fire. That evening every gesture, every word, every sip of wine was filled with tension. When Marco got up to go to bed, he kissed me on the forehead affectionately. It was a tender gesture that made me sink into shame. As soon as he closed the door behind him, Tommaso came towards me. His breathing was hot, his voice hoarse. He couldn't pretend anymore. Me neither. I was shaking, but it wasn't fear. It was desire. The body spoke more than reason. When his lips landed on mine, I didn't stop him. I didn't want to. It was a long, desperate, wild kiss. I leaned against the wall, unable to react. His body was on top of mine. His hands slid everywhere, as if they had known me forever. My every sense was on fire. Every fiber of my body responded to his touch. I felt alive. Damn alive. Then, the sharp sound of falling glass. We whirled around. Marco was there, on the threshold. The face was a mask. Confusion, pain, anger. He couldn't even speak. I pulled away from Tommaso suddenly, but it was late. Marco looked at us as if he were observing two strangers. I tried to talk, to explain, but I had nothing to say that would make things right. Tommaso tried to intervene, but Marco silenced him. He said he couldn't stay, that she never wanted to see me or him again. At that moment, I realized that I had lost everything. Marco took his things and left. Thomas stayed. He tried to hug me, to calm me down, but it didn't help. I had destroyed my marriage, my home, my life. I looked at him and realized that there was nothing left between us either. We had crossed a border from which there is no turning back. So, that night, I made my choice. I prepared my things. I didn't say anything. I went out in silence, leaving everything behind, my husband, my stepbrother, the house, the memories, and with them, I also left a part of me. If you want to receive new videos of the series, write "I want the sequel" in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive a preview of future publications. Thank you.